To the decision desk and President Biden's campaign celebrating their fundraising success this morning and taking shots against his political opponents. All of the candidates had to disclose their fundraising for the second quarter of the year, with the president's election campaign bringing in $72 million over the course of April, May, and June. On the Republican side, former President Trump raised $35 million during that same time period. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign bringing in $20 million. In a statement, the Biden campaign pointed to their success, saying that the numbers are in and there's no hiding the stunning and embarrassing lack of enthusiasm for the Republican candidates running for president. That comes as Democrat Robert F. Kennedy Jr. raised more than $6 million in the second quarter, including $3 million in the last 3 days before the disclosure deadline, June 28th through the 30th. It also comes as author Marianne Williamson raised less than $1 million in the last quarter. The campaign said they took in $920,000. Williamson's campaign has faced multiple staff shakeups and said they were restructuring earlier this month. The campaign of Republican presidential candidate and former New Jersey Governor Christie raised nearly $1.7 million over the first 25 days of his campaign. The super PAC aligned with Christie raised nearly $6 million in that time. One advisor says that in the limited amount of time Christie was campaigning in the second quarter, he began building a strong foundation with smaller donors plus many influential Republicans. Right now, former President Trump is maintaining a commanding lead in the polls in the race for the Republican nomination, and it comes as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is reorganizing his campaign staff. Joining me now to talk about all of this, Melik Abdul, Republican strategist and radio host. Thank you for being with us this morning. So let's start with DeSantis and the news that he is cutting staff because they're not quite fundraising where they may like to be. Is this a sign of trouble? What are you reading into this?
Well, sure. It's yet another sign of trouble. We saw what happened with the Twitter rollout, the very clunky Twitter rollout. There were a number of expectations that people had as Ron DeSantis as a candidate. And remember, we were told that just wait until he actually gets into the race. Well, he's been in the race for a couple of months now, and Ron DeSantis has not just not outperformed. Many people would argue that Ron DeSantis has not performed on the national stage at all. Many of us who had reservations about Ron DeSantis' candidacy see what he's doing around, his hiring, in which many of us said at the beginning that he had too much of a bloated staff. There were a lot of assumptions that people had about Ron DeSantis as a candidate, but he is not meeting that actual metric. And I think that this is something that's not going to bode well for him. Yes, people shake up campaigns all the time. You try to figure out where to put your best resources, but this is yet in another line, in another long stream of incidences where the Ron DeSantis is not performing well on the national stage. And as I said, I don't expect this to get better during this campaign at all.
And many have criticized DeSantis for not connecting with voters, right? The face-to-face ground game. Is that his biggest challenge, or is it his politics that's not connecting?
Well, I think it's the later. I don't think that it's necessarily his personality. We've had candidates run who may have not had the best personalities or not. I think that the Ron DeSantis problem is, in a larger way, the Republican Party's problem. The Republican Party has embraced Ron DeSantis as a cultural warrior, and he's appealing to many people on the right who need a culture warrior. Many of us who came to the party in 2016, I was a two-time Barack Obama voter. What Ron DeSantis, his message of being a culture warrior and fighting against the woke and retaliating against businesses, that is nothing that drove me. That represents nothing that drove me and many people like me to the Republican Party. So I think that the Republican Party needs to be mindful that while all of that woke stuff may sell in Florida or it may sell in states, red states, it does not sell to the larger population on the national stage. And we're seeing that Ron DeSantis' actual numbers reflect that. This isn't me speaking as a Trump supporter, of which I am. We have to actually look at the numbers to see how Ron DeSantis continues to underperform. And I will say this, Ron DeSantis is absolutely the first Republican governor to win Miami-Dade County but since Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush also won. And in fact, Jeb Bush actually built the Miami-Dade Republican Party that Ron DeSantis now benefits from.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.